baby.
We in here, yeah, we in here, 'cause we been.
Y'all better get comfortable with saying black.
We in here, yeah, we in here.
Black versus the Board of Education.
'Cause we came here, rid of us now. We in here, yeah, we in here. 'Cause we came here, rid of us now. And you know that we won't ever go to do what you been here.
That's why we are indeed a whole mood.
That's it.
Bam, 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 bam. Don't do that face, Adrian.
Well, it's another Monday here on Black versus the Board of Education. Hello, 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 and welcome to this space. My name is Miss Lorraine, and I am the captain of the ship. As usual, we always have a cast of characters in the building, and I don't see my baby yet, so I'm going to go ahead and bring her up. And I'd like to know who we're talking to, so I want you all to introduce yourselves, give me a little bit about how you're feeling, and we'll jump into the discussion. Today, we're going to take a mindfulness segment, and we're going to talk about family systems and risky behavior. I'm gonna leave it there because I'm a little pissed starting my show off on a Monday, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a good discussion. So let me go ahead and start with the ladies, and I'll start with our virtual cast member first, and then I'll come inside the studio. So Melissa, take it away.
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa. I'm a freshman at UC Berkeley, and I'm very excited about today's topic.
Ooh, she said very excited. That means we're going to get some Berkeley intellect as we delve into this topic, because it's actually a very serious one, and I'm hoping that we can kind of wade through some waters together. Miss Lady, hey.
Hey, it's your girl Keela. It's Monday. A little tired, but we're going to wake up.
We're going to wake up. Well, it's my job to get you up. And we're going to pass it over here to this lovely lady who's joining us for her second week in a row. Go ahead and say, hey.
Hey, it's Mariah, and I'm feeling excited for this conversation.
Oh, fantastic. And, my sidekick for the last two seasons. How many you been here with me?
Two.
Well, you back. So go ahead and say, hey.
Hey, Adrian. Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you, and we'll go across the room. He's already laughing. I don't know what's so funny, but he's going to introduce himself. So say hey to the people.
How you doing?
Pull that. You already know what time it is.
How you doing? I'm Mr. Fox.
Mr. Fox, welcome back. And we have a new voice joining the discussion this week. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, how y'all doing? My name is Jordan.
And Jordan is his first show, so we're going to try to go easy on him. But you guys know how I like to put people on the spot, because I always like to hear what folks are thinking. And a lot of times we don't have a lot of gentlemen joining the show. So we kind of evened it out today, 3 in studio. And so that makes me excited, because your voices are so powerful, especially when we're talking about different aspects of family. Because a lot of times when we look at our traditional families or how the media portrays us, Black men are not in the homes, right? And so there's a deficit that comes across. Hold on, before we keep moving, she decided to grace us with her presence all the way from Howard University. Go ahead and say hi. I thought we evened it out, but it looks like the ladies are showing up in full force today.
Okay, hair.
Hey, come on, say hey, girl. Nope.
Okay. Can you
There
hear
she
me?
go. Yeah, we can hear
Hey
you.
everyone. My name is Anaya, and I'm a sophomore at Howard University. And I'm
Well,
glad to be
welcome.
back.
I'm just saying the HBCUs, they told me that y'all was tardy for the party, but I'm glad that you decided to get off CP time and come and check in with your fam. So welcome back, Miss Anaya. But as I was saying, a lot of times they like to portray our families as having deficits because our men are normally not in the room or at home. And so we're going to kind of take this topic and kind of flip it on its head. We are again talking about family systems and risky behaviors. And the reason why I decided that we should talk about this is we are going through a couple of cohorts of MBSAT, which is mindfulness-based substance abuse treatment, with actually junior high school students lately. And we're noticing some of the behaviors they're exhibiting. We're hearing about different things that are happening on campuses. And I just wanted to talk about, from our perspective as folks who provide a service to the community, how our family dynamics impact us in the way in which we carry out this work, we do this job, and how it in how it affects us, right? Because I don't have all the answers, but I got a little bit. So we're going to talk about that today. So first of all, I want you guys to go through. We're going to go through and we're going to talk about what type of household you grew up in. And for some of you, this might be kind of a refresher, right? We've talked about something like this before, but I want to know what type of family dynamics you grew up in and how it impacts the way in which you show up in the world. So let me go ahead and start with Anaya since she's the latest and the greatest. So let's go ahead and start with you. Tell us about the household you grew up in.
Okay, yeah. So I grew up in a two-parent household, and then I have two older brothers. So,
Okay. So how does that impact the way you show up in the world?
I guess teaching me to always be present and to check in on my loved ones because I feel like I got tough love from my brothers. Like they weren't outright saying, "Oh, like I love you so much," like hugs and kisses all the time. But it was
Mhm.
definitely like when you need me, like I'm here for you no matter what. And same thing for my dad, I would say, just teaching me to show up and be there for those who love me. And then my mom was very outright with showing up and supporting me and my siblings and just our family in general. So definitely knowing when to show up for people and how to best support them.
Gotcha. Miss Melissa.
My parents got divorced or separated when I was in like the fourth grade, third or fourth grade. I don't remember. So I grew up mostly with just it being my mom and my sister, and then later my adopted little brother. So my dad was there, but not like he was involved, but he wasn't like we didn't live in the same household. So I saw him, and he came to the important events and things like that. And my relationship has gotten a lot better with him recently. So I think just overall moving through life, it's given me a different perspective on the kind of parent I want to be, and just overall the person I want to be, being present in different spaces, and yeah, just I think overall the kind of parent I want to be. I think that was like instilled in me from a very young age, who I wanted to be and how, when I have kids, how I want my kids to feel.
Gotcha. Miss Keela. What's so funny?
It's just I knew I was next. But yeah, I also grew up in a two-parent household. I have 5 siblings, and I kind of range into the middle of that.
So you ignored?
Yeah, but like definitely noticed. But like like growing up and like now seeing like being older, I feel like how I know how to show up is just kind of like being there, because in getting checked on, I'm the one that kind of checks in on people. I check in on my mom. I do all that. Um, but yeah, my parents kind of on and off, but I've had a better relationship with my dad recently.
Okay.
Yeah. So, now that I'm older, I feel like I can do my own terms how I want to do things. So I appreciate that. But yeah, just kind of being the glue in a sense. Me and my older sister, I feel like, because we're the oldest. But
Gotcha.
yeah, so.
Okay. Mariah, tell us about your family dynamics.
I grew up with two parents, but separate households. So primarily stay with my mom. I don't remember the exact visitation, but I would see my dad every week. I think Thursdays and weekends. For a while in the beginning, I would say probably until I was about maybe 9 or 10. My mom she had an addiction, so I was home alone a lot. How I feel like that impacts how I show up in the world is I'm very introverted. I'm fine with being alone now. It's kind of taught me to just sit back and be the observer, just kind of taking care of myself a lot, learning things, failing. And yeah.
Okay. Gentlemen, let me start with Adrian. Tell me about your household.
I grew up single parent house with my mom as an only child. So I would say we grew up together. So it kind of taught me independence from a young age. And I saw her try to play both roles of his mother and father. So it kind of taught me the importance of like male figures in kids' lives.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible for a woman to play both roles? Just from your perspective. And there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not jumping on single moms. I'm just asking a question.
I think it's possible, but there's always going to be something missing with it. because there's only so much that your mom could teach you about how to be a man.
Yeah.
So single moms are definitely doing it. It's hard.
Yeah. Jordan, tell me about your family.
All right.
Not like I don't know, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, so I would say I grew up in a single parent household for part of my life, but I also grew up in a 2-parent household for another part. So like my early childhood, I feel like I grew up in a single parent household, but with a lot of support from grandparents, from my auntie. I had a big village, which I'm grateful for. My dad wasn't really involved in my life. So like I said, my village really stepped in. But then I also had a stepdad for probably from like 9 to about 16. And then him and my mom got divorced, but he was still there. But during that time, I was definitely leaning on my village, my mom, and the extra people that supported me. So.
That's dope. Mr. Fox, you was on vacation. Like, what the hell?
I grew up in a.
Pull that to your mouth, sir.
I grew up in a brothel. I grew up in a trap house.
Oh.
So, in my home when I was growing up, my mother was full-fledged into prostitution, as well as letting her prostitute friends stay there if they get into it with, like, they pimps or whatever, they need this night to stay or whatever. They used to be trapping out the house a lot, trying to make ends meet, also trying to supply for ends come and go when you be having a drug habit. So you'll see 1,000 come in, you'll see 2,000 go out, 1,000 in cash, the other 1,000 in your clothes, in your shoes, and your watch.
Yeah.
So it was like
Okay.
in the household.
I grew up in a single parent household. My father was also suffering from addiction, and he wanted to be the next great singer. And so a lot of his time and energy went into pursuing this career that took a lot of his time, but his children suffered for that. And I think that impacts the way that I show up, because I never want to be able to do something and just choose not to do it. And I'm very intentional with how I show up for people, because I remember getting a call. He's saying, "I'm coming to see you," and I'd be sitting outside. We'd be at the bus stop. We lived right off of College Town Drive, right next to Sac State, because my mom was enrolled in college. And I remember us sitting on the bus stop and just hours going by, and then it's starting to get dark, and it's just like, but he said he's coming. And I never want anybody that I'm servicing or anybody that I'm mentoring to ever be waiting on me to show up when I said that that's what I was going to do. So that's how that impacts it. And so as we are practitioners of service, of support, do you think, because you guys have heard a lot of stories, can you think of one story? Because I want folks to understand that we don't just talk about being a nonprofit and just sit over here twiddling our thumbs. Can you think of one story that kind of sits out in your mind or impacts you daily, as we're dealing with these kids in these different environments, especially hostile education environments? Is there one story that sticks out to you? And I'm going to start with Melissa.
Come back to me. I have so many to go through in my head. I have like 3 years to go through in my head. Give me a minute.
Naya, do I need to come back to you, or you got an answer for me?
Come back to me.
Y'all suck. Y'all know this is a podcast, right? All right. Adrian, talk to me.
One story that kind of sticks out to me is when we were doing our MB sats, and I think it was me and Keela and someone else. We were running a group, and this one little girl, she was very quiet during the group. And it wasn't until I believe the 8th week or one of those weeks, it took a while, but she finally said her story. And she mentioned that her father had cut her face with a knife, and it kind of went down, and that's the reason like she would wear something to cover it. And that kind of stuck out to me, because from talking to her, you would never know that she went through something so traumatic. But just knowing that and knowing that she has a story that goes that deep, it kind of like put extra emphasis on our words and why they're so impactful and why they're so important, because she's taking that and using our words to deal with her trauma.
Miss Keela, I'm coming back to you too.
No. Dang. No, I just that dang. Okay. I think for me, kind of, I think it was that same one, but basically there was a boy and his mother was into prostitution, and he had to basically take care of his siblings. So there was like 3 of them, and I can't, because I have a bunch of siblings, so like I can't imagine being um in that situation, and the father wasn't present. So it was really just him making sure his brothers and sisters were going to school, and he was like 10 while this was going on. You're a kid yourself, so I can only imagine how that's impacted him. So,
Jordan.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I want to know, as we are practitioners out here in the community dealing with different groups of young people, I want to know a story that has stood out to you based on what our young people are dealing with in present day, because there's a lot of adults who don't do the work that we do, but they assume that these kids are really just, I don't know, out of control, have behavior issues, but they never think about the genesis of those problems or those behaviors as we are seeing them manifest.
Okay. A lot of my stories that immediately came to mind, when you first asked the question, I just want to make sure I understood it, were a lot of students that I currently am servicing and in the communities I currently service. So I'm going to try to kind of keep my story a little general. But I feel like it does pertain to a lot of the students that I work with. I work in the Meadowview community, and I worked at Burbank High School. And
so before you keep going,
yes,
explain to them, because there are a lot of folks not from here.
Okay.
So explain to them the type of community Meadowview is.
It's a hood in Sacramento, impoverished, underserved, underrepresented,
under-resourced. But shout out to my Vang, who's trying to change that, by the way. But go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, all of those things. Any, it's a lot of negative personifications of the type of youth that come out of those communities. So often they don't see how many roses really live there, because there is a lot of roses even in that. And a lot of students that I work with, they come from such harsh backgrounds but are still showing up to school.
Yeah,
don't get praised for that. But either way, my story was going to be, I've had somebody that I worked with that was dealing with and experiencing homelessness from when COVID first ended up until this point. So you can imagine that they're experiencing homelessness. They kind of stay in the Meadowview community, like with friends and stuff. But if they can't stay in the Meadowview community, then they're coming from a long distance. So every day they may show up second, third period, and teachers are still grilling them, giving them the business, using their story to, because teachers often don't really understand what kids may be going through. But using their story to kind of say, oh, well, don't be as late as this guy, or don't be as late as this girl.
Oh, making an example of them.
Making an example. But then also because of the issue being ongoing, they miss so many hours of school. You cannot expect somebody to all of a sudden be a student again. That's a skill that has to be practiced. And I think oftentimes teachers forget that, and they forget that kids are humans just like they are. So that was the first thing that came to mind. It's a lot of students that I work with that deal with similar issues, but still have to show up to school and still have to be talked to crazy by an adult that doesn't care to ask what their situation is. So
Melissa is shaking her head, and so I'm gonna throw it to her really quick before I throw it to Fox. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, so I remember in one of the earlier seasons, there was a story that we talked about where a kid, I think he was in high school, was like passed through all of the grades without comprehension, had a really low GPA, and
I think it was
was
like
allowed
something
to.
like 0.24%, or
Yeah, it like wasn't even at a
and he
1,
passed 3 whole classes
and he
his whole high
passed.
school career.
Yeah, they passed him through, and he was coming from a single parent household. The mom was working multiple jobs, so she like could not come to like the parent teacher conferences or whatever. But no one made her aware that he was like failing, and then on top of that, the entire education system failed him by pushing him forward and not holding him back or anything like that. So that's one story that I remember, how a lot of people in his life impacted what happened.
Facts.
Man, I heard so many stories in my head. I was running through, and but one of the ones that had affected me was I was going to my niece's place at Sac High, and I was just getting some of the little cousins together, just trying to unite them a little bit.
Mhm.
I was gonna pay for them to all go to the movies and stuff. So I had to go drop the actual money off for them. I couldn't just sell it to them the way I thought I can cash out them or something. You know,
Mhm.
that's not how this actual process worked. So I was going over to drop the money off. As I was dropping the money off, one of my little cousins, I don't really know this little cousin,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
it's still a part of the family, was off to the side because they was cashing her out.
Mhm.
And as they was casting her out, I was wondering, what it was. So I, inquired a little bit about what it was, and they was telling me she stinks and she's this and she's that, and I didn't want her to come there. One of the other aunties, one of my sisters, I got other sisters, my sisters.
Mhm.
Pop was a Rolling Stone, and invited her to come along
Mhm.
with the group. She family too, but the little girls didn't want her to come. So me being me, I asked why they talking about her, whatever, whatnot. She stunk. She smelled like urination. She
Oh.
smelled like her clothes and everything, and that's why some of the my sisters and them wanted her to come along, because she was supposed to get with this group of girls. And this group of girls was supposed to bring her along and bring her up to speed.
Yeah.
The problem was that affected me was, I looked at her and I was like, man, same neighborhood, same stuff. Actually, the same street I grew up on too. Nobody told this little girl she smelled like piss.
Mm.
Nobody told this little girl she stunk. She was trying to be as cute as the other little girls,
Oh.
but her mom wasn't showing up to wash them clothes. Her mom was not present to do what she needed to do, and she could not depend on her friend group to
Mhm.
excuse me.
Yeah, you just gonna knock the whole table over.
Her friend group, she could not depend on them to do so either. They was immature
Yeah.
on it. But I'm just looked at it, was just like, I felt sad for her. I ended up shelling out a couple extra bucks, for some just some, regular outfit, like not real fancy or nothing like that.
Mhm.
But where I'm just coming home in the situation. I had was just released from prison, but her situation was the same as was mine, and I wasn't doing it no better. She didn't have no uncles to tell her, hey, that's my niece. Let me protect her until I came to the picture. She didn't have the other aunties wasn't saying it as well.
Mm.
She's from the other side of the family.
Yeah.
And she just didn't have nobody to tell her. And she was unaware of how bad her situation was. Her just being normal, thinking I'm finna show up and we finna go to the movies and it's gonna be cool.
Mm.
And I show up and I'm being casted off to the side. And I know something's wrong because my situation is a little bit different than yours. But she didn't know just how bad it was. I can smell her with my approach to her.
Mm.
Like, it was for sure like she needs some different clothes.
Wow.
She needs something different. But in her normalizing it over time,
Mhm.
she probably didn't see how bad she smelled, because this is all I really got. She probably, and I can imagine what the rest of her clothes probably
Good
smelled like.
Lord.
You know
Mhm.
what I mean? But these girls, my little niece, she ended up 16. This girl had to be like 3 years younger. Maybe she probably was in the 13 age range. But
Mm.
her mama just dropped her off and did it moving. Like, hey, take it. This is gonna be the babysitting service for as far as they concerned. And they was already talking about it. Man, she ain't gonna pick her up. She's probably gonna have to spend the night.
Mm.
And they was on her. So I had to talk to them about empathy and what it was to talk to her nicely, and what it is to treat a family member as a family member, or even just a friend.
Or offer to wash her clothes.
Do something rather
Sheesh.
than what you doing, because this little girl gonna be in your life for a minute.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? She ain't no she. As I got to know her a little bit more over time, me being out here, she ain't no punk. She's a feisty little. She'll be there for you.
Yeah.
But she don't know the hygiene part. She needed somebody to tell her. And I remember as a boy growing up, it may just take me back, like Didn't nobody really teach me how to brush my teeth either. Didn't nobody teach me, and excuse me for the ladies in the room, didn't no male teach me how to wash my nuts.
Yeah.
Didn't no male teach me, hey bro, you gotta have to hit them armpits, and you can't put cologne on top of that must. You got to change that whole shirt. You know what I mean? And so on and so forth. Somebody has to be there to teach you them things. If the parent ain't gonna do it, some of the households are so corrupted and so affected that because the men are in jail, as you've spoken earlier, and other things, and sometimes other aunties be on drugs. Who's gonna be there for the child? If the dad is gone, he absent off top.
Mm-hmm.
That means his brothers don't want to come through and deal with the niece or the nephew. Now my uncles ain't coming through.
Mm-hmm.
If my uncles and them ain't coming through, then my cousins at school, they not claiming me.
Mm.
So and it goes
So
on
it's
and
a
so forth.
cycle.
It's a cycle.
Mm.
And like he was saying, nobody really sees the roses in these kids. These kids, they tough and they going through it, but mentally, it's a cold process to go through when you ignorant to how bad your actual situation really is. And everybody else seems to think they know how bad your situation is, but they ain't
They
offering
not
no
telling
help.
you. Mariah.
So I have a lot of empathy. When you said to pick a story, like I have so many stories between the schools we go into. I also service the youth in juvenile hall. Tons of stories there. Um, I'm always interested and curious about the backstory. Like no kid just doesn't have a story. No kid just comes to school and keeps getting in trouble
for no reason.
There's always, I don't even know if you would call it a reason, but there's always something behind the scenes going on. And it's just been so heartbreaking to see how things manifest. So for example, some of our girls, their parents are going through divorces at home. So how does that manifest? They want all the attention at school, and how that looks to teachers who either don't care to ask those questions or just are overwhelmed and can't deal with it. It looks like those girls or boys are acting out and they're being aggressive and they're being disruptive. But how do we get the adequate resources to address those problems other than just, we talk about the school to prison pipeline. It's just important to look at those things and all of the stories that we've been going through. Even just today, there's a backstory, there's layers, there's nothing is just a simple answer. There's so many layers. So it's a long-winded way of saying that.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about the different stories, the backstories, the things that these kids are going through, the lack of empathy or sympathy, in most cases, they are kind of manifesting into risky behaviors that we're seeing in the children. And it just, when we talk about the different stories, there are multiple stories to pick from. One of the ones that stood out today, as we were talking to the administrator earlier, was about how these young girls are being trafficked right in front of us, and we don't even see what's happening with them. We think that they're just fast or trying to be cute or quiet for whatever reason. But for folks who don't know, there are house parties going on in our communities. People are renting out Airbnbs and having young girls come through there, and they are paying them to provide certain services. Now, the girls that we were talking about today happen to be in the 8th grade. And so we are seeing the sexualization of our children. And we're going onto these campuses, and we were at a campus like 2 weeks ago, and we saw these girls kind of acting out as we were walking the quad. And I'm like, who's supposed to be watching these children? And we can't always say, oh, well, it's the school's responsibility. Where are the parents or the village, as you spoke about? Where is the village that is willing to step up and start providing some guidance and some protections or safe spaces for these kids to go to? I'm very disturbed at what I'm seeing. I'm seeing girls acting or enacting what it's like to, and excuse my language, but jack off, right? And I'm seeing them doing the motions with their hands, and I'm turning around looking like, what the hell? And the adults are standing right there, and nobody is correcting the behavior. Now, you know me, I got a whole mama vibe. I turned right around and looked at him, and she screamed and ran into the cafeteria. But where are the people who are supposed to be in charge? And what is it that we're expecting them to do when we send our kids into these environments? Somebody's asleep at the wheel. I don't know if it's a problem with parents. I know parents, I've met a couple of parents, some of them popping pills, some of them still trying to compete with their teenage daughters, some of them still trying to be cute and relive their teenage years. And then we send them into school and we let our children get smart with educators. Now, let me put a pin in that, because some of these educators are getting smart with these children, and they're coming from environments where they've been taught to clap back, right? And so you have this kind of cycle going on, and nobody is trying to stand up and be the adult in the situation. What do you think, Jordan?
Well, I mean, just to, like I said, just to piggyback on that, um, as far as teachers, getting with students, I have a student. He's about to get off probation.
Mm-hmm.
He's just told me. So right now he has all A's, B's, and C's. He just told me I've never had anything but D's and F's since like I've been in like the last year elementary school, like 5th or 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I'm talking to him because he's telling me the challenges that he's facing with his teachers. And he's like, oh, well, this teacher is making it an issue because, sometimes I come in and I smell like weed. And so like, she keeps bringing that up. I'm like, okay, well, what do you want to do about it? He was like, well, I want to talk to her about it, but it's just the way that she keeps bringing it up. I feel like she just doesn't know my situation, so now more so with my students, because I'm supporting cast, so I also want to be able to support them, but I also want to be able to equip them with the tools so that they do know how to do life once they're no longer somebody that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm telling him, well, why don't you have a conversation with her and explain, exactly what's going on, and let her know you've never done school is not something that you ever made a priority in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're coming from what you're coming from at home. You're also on probation. You're dealing with that, and you're getting A's, B's, and C's, and you've never done that before. That's something that a teacher should be clapping for.
Right.
So I challenged him to, talk to his teacher. I let him know, if you want me to come and support you, I'll definitely do that. He said, no, I want to do it on my own.
Well,
So-
this is the thing. And Melissa, I need you to pipe in right here. What is the problem with children going in and trying to be their own advocate with these teachers on these campuses?
There's a power imbalance, and if the teachers don't actually see that student as, if they see them as not even a human, which a lot of teachers don't, that power imbalance, that really comes into play and can put that student down, and that can negatively impact them if they don't have an adult in their corner that can also get on that teacher's level.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And so sending him in by himself, I know that we're trying to teach our children certain skills, right? But as Melissa said, the power imbalance is one as such that if they go in and they don't communicate in a way that makes that teacher feel comfortable, that teacher has the power of the pen and they can impact them in that way.
Agreed.
That's why we go in first. We take the hits that are designed for that child and we get the answers and we get the message across that needs to be gotten across in a sense.
Right.
Um,
And I was going to say too, that's something that I explained to him.
Mhm.
He asked me like if I can, can I handle it on my own? I explained that to him because I already know, like, as far as, I'm not gonna say your philosophy, but I will say you were the first person that I've ever heard, explain it in that way, is that a child can't be talking to a teacher because that's an adult at the end of the day, so that's definitely something I made him aware of. I think too, the other thing for me is like, I still have to challenge him on the basis of you're a young man becoming a man, and so it's certain things that you have to do and learn.
And I'm gonna challenge you. You're a young boy becoming a man.
Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Under 18, they boys.
Yeah. Okay. So young boy becoming a man, but at the end of the day, even if we are gonna say we're gonna put them back in their place, you're a young boy, but society doesn't do that. Teachers
They
don't do that.
adultify them.
They do.
Correct.
So.
But it's still our responsibility to change that narrative, right? Because studies show that they see our children as 3 to 4 years older than they actually are. If I see you 3 or 4 years older than you, then there are certain responsibilities that I ascribe to you because somebody at the age I think you are should know these things. And if you're not that age, how can I hold you to that standard? Right. And that's the problem that we're seeing constantly in these environments. You have a lot of adults who, one, have forgotten what it was like to be a child. And two, you have them thinking that children can process information in the way that they do because they know how to do it, right? And that's why I end up getting into it with a lot of these folks on these campuses, and that's why they end up crying. And I don't do tears, just FYI, anybody listening. They end up crying because they're not used to being challenged by another adult who they can't control. And that becomes the problem. Anaya, I have not heard from you, and I done let you sit in your area for a little bit. I want you to weigh in on this conversation. Why is it important for the adults to kind of start to insert themselves, the adults that give a damn? Why is it important that they start to insert themselves on behalf of these children who are going through things that we didn't even have to deal with, some of us, when as we were growing up?
Okay, so I think it's important, like Melissa said, the power imbalance, and some children just aren't aware of how to properly advocate for themselves. So if you're like telling a child, oh, speak up for yourself, how? And then how do I do that without coming off disrespectful? And then I'm disrespectful, so now you're not going to hear me out. So I definitely think that, especially like educators in school, which that's a whole different problem. A lot of teachers aren't great teachers, obviously. But I think they need the proper training and education so they can be able to be there for those students. So
Yeah, and I think that you also have people who hide behind education code. Now, let me tell y'all something, and I'm gonna keep saying it until y'all understand. Um, Laws on the books or policies on the books are subjective. It depends on who's reading it and how they're interpreting it. And if you have a person who's intentionally interpreting it in a punitive way when it comes to only certain segment of students, then they're going to have a problem with me. I remember we had a call about an hour ago, maybe. It was a superintendent, and I was being asked about how I would approach a situation where this eighth grader had a blow up in the cafeteria. Um, Now, when adults intervene in some place that is already contentious and the children are being physical, 9 times out of 10, when you intervene in that, you have to assume that there's a probability that you could be hit. So what they do is they insert their silly selves into these situations, get hit, and then use the education code 48915, which is an expulsion worthy code that's always going to put a kid up for expulsion. But if you know that this child is out of control, why insert yourself in a way that you subject yourself to being hit? So anyway, they took this kid and they put this kid up for expulsion. Now, this particular school district does not have a process that I've seen in other school districts where they kind of exhibit grace and they give you another chance. In this particular school district, if I put you up for expulsion, I'm going to give you a paper to sign, and it's a bunch of foolishness because I looked at the paper and I started editing it in front of them. I'm like, yep, they're not signing that. They're not signing that. They're not signing that. But I looked at the paper and it's like, so basically, even though you're telling me I'm not being expelled, this paper says that I'm being expelled and I lose all rights to even appeal your decision, right? Now, if I'm a parent and I come into this school district and you're telling me, okay, you sign this paper, your child is not going to be expelled. But sign this paper, and then we're just going to put another process in place where A, B, C, and D happens, right? But if I'm not reading it or I can't read, and I signed this document, I basically, without them having to go through an expulsion process, put my kid through a de facto expulsion process, having them expelled without even knowing that's what I'm doing. And I don't even explain it to you, right? So good thing I can read, and I tore up their paper right in front of them. I said, if I had a red marker, it'd be a problem. But if the parents aren't aware of the policies and they don't know how to read legal jargon, right? And I'm going in there and my kid is acting out, and I believe this particular young person, somebody said something about his grandmother who had just passed away. Again, I said, I expect y'all to treat that child like you would treat a white child. That's what I expect. That's my baseline, because everybody seems to find grace when they're dealing with white children, right? And so, long story short, I believe that process is going to be rescinded. However, It shouldn't take somebody like me with common sense to come through and tell you what a room full of people couldn't get together. You know what I mean? It shouldn't take that. But that's why this work that we do is so important, because although we take complaints, we have to have the ability, one, to use our common sense to interpret policies and laws that are on the books, but also we have to have the ability to listen to both sides. Everybody's not telling everything. Okay. And so when we're coming up with situations like this, it's important for the people listening that we take a step back and we listen to everything and we weigh it against what we know to be true, right? And so I just find it very interesting that we have all these young people on campuses. We never ask them what's wrong. We never really ask them about their family dynamics. We just see them engaged in certain behaviors, whether it be fighting, whether it be vaping in the bathroom or smoking some other stuff in the bathroom or under the bleachers. We see them involved in all this, in these things, and we never ask ourselves what happened. Why are they doing these things? What is it that they're running from? Who are they running from? Why can't they deal with themselves in real time? And what type of supports are we putting in place to be able to navigate? And nobody's having that conversation. They're slapping band-aids on bullet holes. I don't know about that analogy, but I'm gonna roll with it. But that's what they're doing. They're slapping band-aids on and saying, see, we fixed it. How big of a fix is a band-aid on a bullet hole? Is it even temporary? Because I mean, you're talking about a big old gash and a band-aid that's going to become unsticky at some point. So what is it that we're expecting our people to do on these campuses? And I'll go around to y'all because I can talk. So what do you think is something that they should be implementing to address risky behaviors in their student population?
Sorry, I'm thinking about a lot in my head right now. Can you come back real quick?
Right.
I think, we can sit here and say counselors and resources, but then it goes back to the representation. So if you have consistent issues there's Black girls that's having consistent issues, where's that safe space for them to go talk about those issues and whatever's going on at home and how it's manifesting? There has to be representation because they don't always feel comfortable to just go accept that, helping hand that's reaching out to them.
Yeah. Fox?
I think that it should be more highlighted on some of the work that we do as far as advocacy. As you was talking, numerous situations came in my head that we've experienced recently. Some of these, we should promote to parents more about advocacy. When you have these meetings, something going on with your child, call us or call another agency like us. Because within what Melissa was saying like about the imbalance of power, what I've been noticing lately is they do tell the Black parents, if the Black parent notices their child is wrong. I've already been having problems with, say, I'm just throwing a name out there, Little Tyrone. Little Tyrone, he fighting his brother at home. He didn't do the dishes last night. Now the teacher calls and tells me she thinking he vaping in the bathroom. I've noticed that they do that with a lot of the Black parents, and then the parent goes off on Little Tyrone because Tyrone already acting bad, and they want and they know he acting bad. Instead of taking the time, listening, seeing what actually happened. When there be situations when we show up, we get to finding out, no, Little Tyrone went to school and he smells like vape because you smoking, Mom. His clothes smell like that because of you.
Ooh.
Or the group in front of him was blowing and it smells on his clothes, but he's not himself, not actually vaping.
Or he took your vape pen.
Or we had this situation where, like you said with that paper, the parent, the boy, the school principal let the kids go skating at the skating rink off campus way over somewhere else. Another boy from a whole nother school came and showed up that this kid has problems with. And the school was aware that this student had problems with him. He went to the door of the school and she told him not to go outside. He went outside anyway. He didn't fight nobody. The other boy wasn't there. It was just a threat. It was just rumoring around. She called home and told the mom who got on him like he did something wrong, and they made him sign one of these papers that they've been making him sign lately. On these papers, because he went to the skating ring and did not fight, but it was just maybe he could have fought if the other kid would show up. But on the paper it says since he went outside that door, off school grounds it had nothing to do with the school, you can't go to your school dance. You're not allowed to participate.
Well, I think let's clarify. It was a school event. That was a principal that was holding the door, a principal and a VP, he pushed himself past them
I'm
to
not
go outside.
I'm not disputing that he didn't push himself past, but what I'm
Right.
saying
But it
is,
was a school event though.
but should you have all these activities taken from you?
I
You
don't
should do
know.
that for anybody else. Did you talk to him?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
You make, but you making the parent, because you know, with the imbalance of power, that the parent already feels bad. Damn, my son's still acting up. You
Mm-hmm.
calling me, I feel bad. She got him writing these apology letters.
Yeah.
He don't know what he really apologizing for. When we talk to him, what did you apologize for? Because my mom told me to. But what are you apologizing for? He
Mhm.
want to be apologetic. He want to get it through, but nobody actually teaching him. And sometimes that's where the advocacy comes in. That's where we come in and we read the paper and say, that's not happening. This ain't happening. What do you mean he can't go to a football game next year? That's 9 months away from now. For pushing through a school door,
Yeah.
you know, he had all these privileges taken from him. And all these privileges, they're social events.
Mm.
After coming from COVID-19 and everybody seeing what happened with these children being stripped from such social activities, how are you going to strip them of all these social events where they're supposed to grow and learn? You know, this is where they go and get told, hey, pull your pants up.
Mhm.
This is where they go and they get told, hey, this is how you talk to girls. This is how you dress. They put, you know, eat chips out the bag correctly. You stripping them of all these social events he's supposed to have.
Mhm.
What was supposed to be the outcome of that for his social life and how he's supposed to grow up? If you just putting him back in a box, he's gonna come back out the same animal he already acting like, but worse.
Yeah. Thoughts?
Um, I have more so towards like what you were, your question. Definitely, I think we need more people that care about people.
Mhm.
So you know, definitely more BYLP on campuses. You know, more programs like BBSN, BGSN on campuses, because students need support. Like Fox was saying, they need advocates, and parents need advocates too. And sometimes parents don't always know who to ask for help, where to go for help. You know, so I think that's why the stuff that we're doing here is so important. I think it's, you know, important that we continue to highlight ourselves, like with, you know, the podcast and things of that nature, because oftentimes parents don't know, and the school is not going to tell them, hey, go get you an advocate. No, they're going to do what's best.
Stay away
They're
from
gonna
them
do what's
Negroes.
best.
Right.
They're going to do what's best for the school's interest. And
Facts.
really, on the flip side of that is with these support services and these programs, you know, we got to stop monetizing the need for change, you know, and we have to be more so about creating the systems that drive the change that we want to see in our communities, and challenging these parents to raise their babies, you
Yeah.
know, and then loving their babies, so that way we can have healthier communities as they get older and they grow up.
Oh, absolutely. Adrian?
Yeah, my answer was kind of geared towards what Jordan was saying, and kind of mix of all of our answers. We just need more people like us on campus that are willing to have those difficult conversations as to what led to those specific behaviors, or tell them that their behavior is going to lead them to something worse than our conversation. Um, so I think, like Jordan was saying, having people that actually care about those students, and show that they were not there for just a check, can go a long way for them.
Yeah. Keela, I'm coming back to you.
Yeah, I agree with basically everybody's saying. But on top of that, I feel like schools need to do better when it comes to like dress code, when it comes to things like that. Just because like even the whole vape stuff, it's just crazy to me because like how did you even walk on campus with a vape? You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I just think there needs to be different protocols, different guidelines to those things. And on top of that, you know, with the whole rebuttal, what we're saying, it's not going to be in their grants. They're not going to want to have us on campuses sometimes, I feel like. So, in order to do that, we just need to have more community events and things like that. So everyone knows that we are out here. There are people that do care about everyone. So I think it needs to be pushed out in that way. Because if you want to rebuttal it, I feel like, you know, school isn't going to have, oh, well, we don't have enough money in the budget. So
Where they find money for what they want to find money for. And we know that everybody's priorities are dictated by their budget. Let's keep it a buck.
So that's what I'm saying. Let's get in the community more. Let's do all this stuff. And just not we, but like everyone that cares about somebody. You know what I mean? It's more to it. It's going to take a lot.
Can I add to that too?
You can absolutely.
You know, I think too, we got to call out the wolves in our communities. You
Ooh.
know, because you just said something really important is, you know, how are they even getting these vapes and
Mhm.
how are they getting these pens? Really, sometimes, yeah, it'd be the parents, but sometimes it'd be bread at the corner store that, you know, I'm gonna just let little bread because I know him, I know his family. I'm gonna just go ahead and get you like 3 pens. And then little bread selling it to
Yep.
so and so. And now so and so got it. And now he become the supplier, you know. So it's this constant will. But, you know, I think that one thing that's came out of, you know, 2024, and I think just just our generation, you know, as far as social media, it's a lot more people getting exposed for, you know, stuff that they've done. And I think we need to take that and start exposing people in our communities that really do not care about the well-being of the community as a whole, but only care about their agenda, and oftentimes only care about making sure that they eat and they family eat, but everybody else is F everybody else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I think too. We got to start, you know, calling people out and doing more community events and highlighting the issues, highlighting the problems, you know, that not just we see, because
Right.
vape pens, and that's how we see it. But these kids is, you know, if they dealing with, you know, being
their coach.
molested at home, or, you know, yeah, if they dealing with drugs at home and stuff like that in the home already, you know, they're not thinking like, oh, this vape is really bad for me. They're like, no, this is worse for me, and this is how I deal with it. So this is
Yeah.
actually what helps me.
Right.
You know
And-
what I mean? So
And to even add on to that, like teachers know, if I know what's going on in school, teacher definitely knows what's going on in the school. Like I had a job, right? And then you had to, in order to clock in, you had to put your phone in the phone box. Just stuff like that. Like I just feel like stuff really needs to get reinforced, and people just really need to start caring about people, but not everybody does. So
Well, you know me. I'm one of those truth tellers, right?
Mhm.
So I see it in a couple different ways. First of all, I need parents to stop being punks.
Scary.
And what I mean by that is some of you are too busy trying to be your children's friends. You're forgetting to parent them. There should not be a kid coming to school in halter tops, tube tops, showing their bellies, butt all out. Like, what are we doing? And what is it that we're trying to teach our children as they're getting older? Number two, the teacher ain't always wrong. Sometimes your kid is cutting up and showing his ass in class. Let's keep it a buck. That's happening. Stop making excuses for bad behavior. We cannot help you if you are not willing to hold your children accountable for the things that they're doing. On the flip side of that, some of your teachers suck and they don't need to be on campuses. They need to go find a job at, I don't know, Sam's Club giving out samples. Like, they are not good at rearing children. Some of them don't have children, don't want children, don't like children. They should not be in charge of children. Let's please keep that a buck. Some of your administrators are career administrators. They have no business trying to run a school. Some of them are just stupid. I'm going to tell the truth. I've been in meetings with some of these imbeciles and I run circles around them. You know why? Because I know what the hell I'm doing. They don't. And so we have to get to the point where we stop glorifying bad behavior, where we stop looking at certain demographics of people and think they are the experts on everything. Who told you that? It's because you're reading their books. They don't know. If they knew, they would have took care of their own children during slavery. We have to keep it a buck. They don't know. And so looking at people as the experts and then trying to figure out why the school system is in shambles, shame on you. Shame on you.
You know what else I noticed though about a lot of the teachers that we've been meeting lately? That they keep telling us they got children. Their kids don't go to the school they teach. They won't put their own kid in that school.
Now, why do you think that is?
We know why that is.
I mean, help somebody else out because they may not know.
They failing the kids at the school that they, you know, that they work at, and they're not interested in driving any type of changes, especially if it's
the children are in charge. I sat in one class and I'm like, after like 2 minutes, I'm like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Because if you're not going to tell him to sit his behind down, what are we doing? And she comes out to recess and she says, my class is just awful. And I'm like, where's the adult? Oh, no. Why are you out here crying, ma'am? Why are you here? If you don't like children, you don't know how to rear children, how did you get this job? What was the prerequisites? I just need to know. I mean, and I'm talking as someone who's never had any biological children, but I've taken a lot of children under my wing. Yeah. You have to have a love for children, period. Yeah. That has to be baseline. If you don't, what are you doing here? And please don't tell me it's just because you get the summers off. What else are you good at?
Mhm.
I,
Well,
I,
I think too, what's going on is that because of I think just because of the times that we're living in, kids are aware that wow, my teacher's not actually culturally competent at all.
At
Like
all.
they don't
Oh,
even
facts.
understand, they don't understand me. And now that kids have identified that, they're gonna be kids and they're gonna run stuff, they're gonna
Mhm.
tear stuff up. But that's because they're
Dude in
kids.
second grade,
Yep.
That's because they're kids
I
though.
was like, what the? He said, don't talk to me. I said, first of all, you a whole kid. He was mad at me. And I'm like, you letting these kids walk all over the classroom. They're throwing the paper at each other, throwing the little books. I'm like, when do you teach? Like, I'm so confused at some of these campuses. I'm so very confused. Teaching is not putting them in front of a computer. That's what they did during COVID. And you notice in COVID, they wasn't good at that either.
Mhm.
Like, what are we doing? And we're expecting the kids to just learn? Who's going to teach them? And then we wonder why they're out of control. Some of these kids need whippings. I'm going to just tell you. I'm old school. Some of them need whoopings. Some of them are too damn smart mouth. And you got parents who would rather not check their children, but will check administrators and teachers. It's ridiculous.
Mm.
But I'll come and fight for your kid. I'm just saying. And we're going to need to hold them accountable, though. Because all the teachers ain't wrong. Sometimes little Johnny need his butt whipped, mama. Stop trying to be little Johnny's friend and let's hold little Johnny accountable. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna give y'all the last word. I'm gonna do a quick round robin because y'all got about 30 seconds. Last word, Mr. Box. What's up?
I don't like when the teacher, when the parents, when they talk to us, when they see us talk to their children, they'll tell BGSN, they'll tell BBSN, thank you. I love what you've done with my child, but you don't want to go home and do what we've done
Ooh.
with them. You'll thank us for the work that we've done, but then you go right back to doing what you're doing. Let the child right back to where he was at in the first place. And when we see the child again, we say, what happened? The child really don't know, but I know it's you.
Mariah.
I think there's this resounding theme of intergenerational trauma. And there's just patterns being repeated and cycles being repeated. So mom was doing this, mom didn't get attention, and now look, little, the daughters, same thing. The patterns repeat. And that's just something we really have to focus on when we do this work.
Yeah. Anaya, 30 seconds.
Just if you know better, do better.
Oh, thank you for that. That's nice. Melissa.
Two things. One, I think when you were talking about the second graders and like how they're young and they're running the classroom, I think also a lot of that, as we've said, starts at home. And I'm thinking about how young those kids were during COVID. And you're saying that you can't put kids in front of a screen to teach them, but that's exactly what happened during COVID. And I think that definitely affects children as well. But then something that you always say that brought up a lot, that I feel like the topic was brought up a lot, is that you can't train a heart problem. And if there are teachers that are inside of these classrooms that don't care about the kids, it's going to be an endless cycle of exactly what we're talking about.
Come on, Melissa. I'm about to raise you an offering. That was good, girl. Come on, Keela.
You always have me after Melissa. And, like,
It's not fair.
it's not fair at all. I love you, Melissa. But okay. I say check-ins. I feel like check-ins are definitely important. I feel like even with our meetings, that's how you start. You can't read a room if you don't know what's going on. So
yeah,
that's
check-ins
nice.
super important. Adrian.
Yeah, kind of what Fox was saying. Parents don't undo our work that we're doing at schools. Not only teachers adultifying our kids, I think the parents are as well sometimes. And that's why we get them and we can't tell them anything because their parents don't.
Ooh. I think that's good, Adrian. Yeah. Jordan.
Something simple, just be the change that you want to see. Let's create the systems that drive the changes that we want to see in our communities and stop making excuses for ourselves, really. Now, I'm not going to say everything that we've been through as a people is an excuse. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we do need to let's create the systems that drive the changes that we want to see in our communities.
I like that. What I'm going to say is I need people to crap or get off the pot. And that goes for everybody on both sides. We need parents to parent, and we need teachers if you're capable to teach. And if you aren't capable, know that you're not capable and get the hell out the way. I need there to be more consistency. Like you said, we go into these campuses and we give out a whole bunch of information, and it's not reinforced. It's not consistent when we leave, and when we come back and we're able to reach these kids in a different way to find out what really happened. Then you have these adults looking like, oh, you guys are doing that? Well, hell yeah, I told you that the last time I was in here. We need there to be a reinforcement and a consistency in the things that we're imparting to your children, because it's important for us to see the change that we're trying to make. Um, it's not easy for all of us to be up at, I don't know, 7:30 on a campus talking to 33 eighth graders, and then we'll go into the 2 7th grade classes and the 2 6th grade classes after this. It's not easy for us to get up and then do a whole day of work here, and carry on evening groups only to do it the next day and there to not be any consistency. The other thing that I want to make sure I emphasize, we are not your enemy. If we come on your campus, do not see us as your enemy. Understand that we're there to help and support you. If you had it together, we wouldn't be on your campus in the first place. So understand, we are teammates. We are not competitors. And if we can join forces, we can really get some work done. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and put up my peace sign. We're going to see y'all next week right here, Monday, 4:30 PST. I said 7:30 Eastern. We are Black versus the Board of Education. Peace out.